So, welcome back everybody. I hope you enjoyed the first part of this discussion. And now we will continue to discuss. And I'm keen to know more about the lobbying, which I think is a key factor for getting success in getting more and more TV programs, movies, theaters, whatever accessible for people with different disabilities and in our way, audio described. So could you please give us our best pieces of advice for successful lobbying? We start in Sweden.
I thought you should say Spain.
You go ahead.
Blow them up.
Yes, perhaps. Yes, in Sweden we very often work in what can you say, man? Traditional way, I think. So I don't think we have so much new ways. We one good thing is of course to meet and talk directly. To give information and also let people try it, so to see what it is like. We also have done before. We have met politicians, and we are soon going to meet both politicians and responsible authorities and also TV media to discuss their ongoing work with more accessible TV, and it's of course then about audio description on the first hand, and then we are invited them to a meeting. Then there we will discuss the situation and the goal we hope we are working towards, and we will end this meeting with lunch in darkness, because we have find out that if we lockar med. We
offer them something special.
We have find out that if we offer them something very special, something they have never experienced, then many politicians and other decision makers will come and meet us. I could mention that the minister who are responsible in the government, the minister who is responsible for among other things questions dealing with disability. When we invited her to a lunch in darkness, she ändrade några andra möten som kunde gå dit. She changed her plans. So that meeting she should have been at, she moved to another day or something like that. So she could come and see us on that lunch. So that can be a good way.
Yeah, I guess. And we in the Wislundberg Youth, we have like reference groups that speaks to a lot of the media, like Swedish television and so on, to have their audio description departments, I guess, to understand what we need and so on and so forth. Sorry, and also with the Swedish Film Institute to get the cinemas more accessible. So we have a reference group there, and it's going well, I think. And yeah, that's how we work right now. In
Traditional.
Yeah, traditional, I guess.
What's it like in Spain?
Well, in Spain, we are the land again of milk and honey. In 2004, we had the first, and I don't think there is another one, of approved standard for audio description. And Joel, is there another one in the world?
Well, in the UK, they have the Ofcom guidelines.
But that's the
Yes.
regulators, yeah.
Those were probably the first, and then you have them, and United States has been kind of culling from the various ones.
Yes, so Spain is strange because it has this standard, like ISO standard, which in fact is coming up now. We'll have a worldwide ISO standard for audio description, and Sweden is participating in it.
Yes, yes, I know.
Through
Great.
Mia Alhern, yeah? So that's the thing. I have two ideas. One idea is to go to a politician and say that you're going to go to Strasbourg and put denounce the situation in your country, because you must have an act since you belong to Europe, and if in Croatia they have got an act, why can't you have an act for disabilities?
Yes.
But go to Strasbourg, don't go into, Gothenburg, blah, blah, blah. You tell them that you're going to go to the biggest, because that would make them nervous. Yeah. And the other thing that worked really well in Barcelona lives because of tourism, okay? So Stephen Hawking, the guy who's disabled in a wheelchair, came to Barcelona, and we were able to speak to him, and we asked him to say the first thing is that Barcelona is a beautiful city, but it's not accessible. And that they were terrified because he said that on television. And the idea of an important person that everybody considers to be emblematic, saying that Barcelona was not accessible, it changed drastically, immediately. So when someone like this comes to Sweden, have an interview with the person of course will have affinity with you, empathy, because he's also disabled, or perhaps he's got a mother or a daughter or someone disabled. Go and talk to them and ask them to publicly say on television the first thing. This is a fantastic country, Sweden. What a shame that it's not accessible. And tomorrow you'll see the changes. Yeah? So something like that, because politicians are useless. So threaten them. Go more active.
Yeah, and I think in Finland we are too nice to them. We arrange meetings and we are very nice, and we want them to understand. And I think yesterday Pilar said that don't be nice, be nasty. I think that's the best advice I've got. And also that Joan Greening I've met 3 years ago or 4 years ago, we were in London. She said that she always goes to the film happenings where the producers are. And she's always hand up and always talking. And she said that never apply that it's going to bring money to the producers, but always just say that it's the right thing to do to have audio description. The moral issues.
Yeah, because money they don't bring money.
Yeah.
That's not.
Well, for that money, I guess you have to start somewhere, right? And if it is in every single Blu-ray, DVD, and so on and so forth, you can expect it for as a blind people or as a blind or as a visually impaired person. You can expect it, and then you can go and buy whichever DVD you want.
But the UK, yes, they're wonderful, they're fantastic, they're great, but they have something as crazy as in Spain, for example. They do the audio description of movies for the theater, for the cinema, and they are not in the DVDs.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so you have audio descriptions for cinema, audio description for DVDs, audio description for. So again, we are duplicating. Sometimes it is there, but it's not on the DVD. Sometimes it's on television, but it's not on the DVD. Sometimes on the cinema, and it's not on the DVD or the television.
Right.
And then another organization, right? So
Of course, on top of.
So we do it like 6 times for the same movie.
And now you have cloud. We have cloud.
Yeah.
Why can't we have one version in the cloud? Yes, because of copyright issues.
But why?
Well, because the owner of the audio description would be the owner of the. Joel, who is the owner of an audio description?
No, if the audio description is being done for the film producer, almost always the film producer owns the audio description. It's work for hire. and the audio describer no longer owns the description track. Now, what has happened, speaking of lobbying and money involved with all of this, what has happened is that some folks have begun to just independently do audio description for a film and put that audio description in the cloud, if you will. Tell people about it. They can put in their own DVD, in their own DVD player, and sync it with this description that's played from the cloud. It's not very sophisticated the way it's done currently, but that's one way you can get around copyright, because you're not using the content. You're simply creating descriptions separately, and people can put it together on their own. One application that I think is could be quite valuable, a company in the UK, and a couple of you have mentioned this, using smartphones to sync description that's been produced professionally. But and I think that could very well be the future of description in cinema and on DVD and maybe even television, is if people can independently download. First, they download this app that allows you to do it. Then they download the description that's produced professionally, hired by the cinema or the television, or maybe even it's a big Broadway show or something that's very set, run by computer, and they download that description. That would be free, but it's all supported. Pilar, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. It's supported by the downloads of audio tracks in alternate languages, which are all produced anyway for the DVDs. The idea behind this app from the UK is that they would share those, the movie producers would share those other language tracks, be paid a license fee, of course, and then people would pay $1.99. They speak Spanish and they want to hear that American film in Spanish. They simply hear it through their smartphone app. So that's one way. Another way of making some money too, I think, is if they embrace description, they can buy it, use it for the film, and indeed, as Pilar says, put it on the DVD. We have that problem in the States as well. And then market the combined track, the audio from the film with the audio description. That becomes an audio movie that a sighted person could use when they're on a long car trip, or when you're jogging. You relive that movie that you can't see because you're driving a car or because you're jogging or whatever. And I think that would be attractive to lots of folks who would pay 99 cents, $1.99, whatever, to download that combined audio track. And I wanted to make a couple of remarks with respect to the lobbying in particular. Pilar quite rightly mentions Joan Greening, who, I've known Joan for a long time, and I would describe her quite lovingly as a pit bull. She would tenaciously grab the coat of these film producers, and she wouldn't let go. She's like a dog with the film producers' coat in her teeth, and she doesn't let go until they agree to put in audio description. And yes, it's not because, as Tanya says, it's not because it's going to make you money necessarily. It might eventually, but it's because it's the right thing to do, and sometimes you do quite well by doing good. When you do this, when you're the first person to get out there and do that, media swarms you, you get lots of press, lots of positive press. It could be you do well by doing good. But I tell you, I think part of the reason Joan was so successful has to do with the structure in the UK of the Royal National Institute for Blind People. They have one service organization for people who are blind and have low vision, both. It's combined, so it speaks to the issue that Pilar raised between omva and other organizations. But it's an organization, and in the United States, we have a situation similar to what you have in Spain. You have two national organizations, American Council of the Blind, with which I'm affiliated, and the National Federation of the Blind. they hate each other. They have very different philosophies about how to support blindness. Same thing happens in the deaf community. Deaf versus hard of hearing versus cochlear implants versus sign language, etc. And it is so frustrating. If these organizations would come together, like you have in the UK, they would be far more effective at getting a lot more done on audio description, on lots of issues, actually. I will say that I think someone mentioned, find out your legislators, find out which ones have relatives who are blind, whose father perhaps is starting to develop macular degeneration. But, you know, Senator Harkin in the United States, he's one of the great champions of people with disabilities, partly because his brother is deaf. Get to those people. This gives them something they personally feel strongly about, and that can do wonders. Going the Stephen Hawking route type thing, and getting that kind of negative publicity sometimes can have an effect. And then finally, our friend from Sweden there mentioned the dining in the dark, you know, getting them involved in a special event. That's certainly a great idea. Oftentimes what I will do is show a clip from a film that doesn't have the video and ask them if they can figure out what's going on. And I use The Color of Paradise in particular. It's got a 2.5-minute clip where it's nothing but birds, and you have no idea what's going on. Then you play the audio description, and it's like, oh my God, that's what I was missing. It is really quite revelatory. Things like that can help to get people on your side.
That's great. I was just thinking about what about like a copyright treaty, like there is with books now, with accessible books. Why isn't there a treaty for like the audio description part of films?
Well, there should be, although that's being discussed actually quite currently. You know, you might be able to help me out on it's what is it called, the WIPO treaty that's been approved by X number of nations, and right now the United States is trying to get the Senate to ratify it, and there's a lot of issues around that. A lot of the media people are quite afraid of anything that would imply sharing of content without the payment of appropriate licensing fees, even when it's for audio description or for transcription into Braille. They're very nervous about that. The law might be able to add more on that as well.
Yeah.
Is there any questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Please?
How do we take this?
Wait.
Yeah, I see.
It's going to be very interesting in a minute.
Oh, we have all the things on the table on the floor.
Okay, yeah.
Right, I mean, right, hello, I'm Frederick, by the way. I think you touched on it a bit, but I mean, all the techniques that we are talking about here today are already or soon to be absolute. They will no longer be. Already in Sweden, about 7% of the population watches TV online. If you go for movies, I do not know anyone who bought or rented a DVD for the last 2 years. Everyone has it in their Netflix queue. But if you look at Imagine, which is a TV service in Sweden, the audio closed caption isn't there. The public service company, they only broadcast the subtitles on the TV, on the setup TV box, not on the content online. I didn't know that Yle was doing any audio descriptioning because it's not online. The Danish Synstolk, the Danish audio description TV channel, is not online. BBC and Channel 4 puts out a fraction of what they do online. ITV, which is one of the bigger in the UK, doesn't do it. And if I want to go the BBC route, I can only watch it after it's been played, not on TV catch-up, not on any other TV services that's online. And I just want to know if you have any ideas on how to make this shifts, because then it's not longer talking to the TV producers or to the TV corporations, but to the distributors. We need these channels to take up your bandwidth.
Okay, I can reply to that. The issue now is that, of course, we are legislating on the past, not on the future. And technology is going too fast for politicians, of course, that they're only interested in making money. But the thing is that, okay, all the legislation, the 20% in the UK, the 10% in Spain, or the whatever percent in any other country, that is only for broadcast television. For video on demand, for VOD or for IPTV, there is zero. There is no legislation whatsoever. Okay, what is happening? The UN is now created a new body which is called AVA. Joel goes there to the meetings sometimes. I go there all the time. You have a representative there called Mia Alhern from the Swedish Federation of Disabilities, and we work there. And we are now making the next move is to have not only broadcasting, but also any service on the spectrum that has to have by law some percentages of it to be accessible. Okay. The other thing that you have in Europe coming up is HBB TV, smart television. I don't know if you have it in Sweden.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, that gives you the possibility of having the television. You can watch it on television, but you can also have another channel on your iPad or on your iPhone. Okay, and that would give you the possibility of downloading from internet the file with the audio description, or the file with the audio subtitling, or the file with the sign language, and then the whole family can watch the television by broadcast. Things like that. This is happening. We are in HBB 1.5 at the moment. This does not support the 2 video signals, but in 2016 we'll have the HBB 2.0, and that in Europe will have full accessibility. Now, that the services are done or not done, that's to do with the broadcasters. We are now starting in the 1st of December a European project, and this is why I think we should work together. A European project called HBB for All. I am leading this project in Europe for the next 3 years. It is a €4 million project, which is fantastic. And the idea is to make accessibility for television. Okay, we are 12 partners in all across Europe, but there is nobody from Sweden or Finland or anywhere. And
from the Nordic countries.
This is why when Peter asked me to come and invited me to, which I'm really, really grateful, because I think it would be nice to have the Nordic countries included, because when we have to do with subtitling countries, now we have Portugal. Okay, but to me, the idea of subtitling countries, yes, is Portugal and Greece, but it's also the Nordic countries of Europe. And the way to do audio description for subtitling countries is completely different to the way that they do audio description for English or for Spanish, because we are dubbing countries.
Yes.
So I think we have to work together. I think we have to get a project together and work more together, and we don't.
Yes.
And that's bad.
Yeah.
So yes, Frederick, I think the next thing is, the next move is cloud, and is downloading, and is video on demand, and is smart television, and it's called interoperability is the word, and it is a multi-screen viewing, and that's what's coming. But again, if we don't make pressure with government to broadcasters, to all of this, the technology will be there, and we won't be using it, which is a shame.
Frederick, your point is really quite excellent.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
And it is built into the 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act that I mentioned in the United States. If it's built in for captions, because captions, people know it's been around for 30 years. Those captions, if they're produced for broadcast on television, they must be included when they're streamed on the web and made accessible to portable devices, smartphones and such. I don't believe audio description is included there because it's still such at a small stage anyway. It will be, though, in the next review of it all for sure. That's been discussed already. So yeah, we've been talking a lot about DVDs, which are on their way out, essentially. We've been talking about movie theaters and broadcast television, but ultimately, the content creators have to produce the description. It's got to get started and done somewhere, so it's available for streaming or on a DVD or whatever. And that's still going to be the big, making that commercially viable or viable in some way for some reason.
Yeah, and it's very important to make all these services integrated, so you can see it with your whole family and such. So like your idea with like smartphones that syncs the content is quite excellent.
So we had one over here.
Linda, Lisa wants to ask a question.
I just asked Pilar before, but I want to ask the other countries as well. As a consumer, how is there any difference, you know, in DVDs when you buy a DVD?
You have 2 DVDs?
We have 2 DVDs, yes.
So
should I pass this to Pilar?
No.
And the question was, what is there any difference? Like there is this audio description sound thing you can choose from the settings in those 2 DVDs we have.
Right.
It was the movie which main character was blind, and the director was familiar with audio description because he had been living in Sweden actually, Klaus Herre, and it was the director's choice to make the audio description to that film. And then his company made another film, and that's all we have in Finland now. And we have been trying, just as I said, to get the film foundations people let us to introduce audio description to film companies. But that hasn't happened yet. But we are trying, and now we are getting nasty. So
I wanted to add one more thing about Joel. You want to say something because I'm changing the topic.
Well, just Pilar, you talked earlier about craziness of having description on the film, but it not being on the DVD, and we have that too. But it can be even worse. The DVD goes out and in different versions, and there's a DVD version that has description, and then there's the DVD version that streams or is available through Netflix, which doesn't have description. There's a huge grassroots campaign in this country to get Netflix to offer description. Well, that's well and good. Netflix, you know, they've been uncooperative. They can say they'll offer description, but again, it has to be created by the content provider. And it's like the movie theater building itself, the movie theater owner saying, okay, we'll do description, but nobody expects the movie theater owner to create the description or Netflix to create the description for every video that's out there. No, it goes back to the content creator. But yeah, different versions are different, which is crazy. And by the way, that's why, little plug here for the audio description project of the American Council of the Blind. I would encourage all of you to check out that website. It is simply acb.org/ADP, Audio Description Project, ADP. We've got a DVD page that lists every DVD that has come out in the States that has description, and we verify it. Each one, someone actually goes and purchases it. We find out, does that particular version have description or not? It's been a great resource for people who are blind. The other thing that hasn't been mentioned that is really quite critical, I think my colleagues there who are consumers of description will agree, is that, you know, you have a small percentage of the films that have description and a minuscule percentage of those films on DVD that have an audio menu. So you got a film that maybe has description on the DVD. A person who's blind puts the DVD in their DVD player and they can't access the description because the damn menu is all visual. You have to choose items from the screen. It's not such a big deal to make those choices oral, if you will, and they have to start doing that.
But isn't there a new act for that as well? That that content have to be like menus have to be accessible. I thought I read something.
Yeah, that's right.
And talking about the menus and technologies, in this new project or in this new way of watching television in Europe, we're going to have 2 more services. One is called Clean Audio. I don't know if you know Clean Audio, but it takes away some of the background noise, because not only people can't see properly, but people usually can't hear. And for example, me, I can't hear properly the sound, but I can hear the television, but I don't know what people are saying. Okay. So there is a new service called Clean Audio, and the idea is to also add clean audio to audio descriptions, because some of the problems that we have is the mixture. You have the mix of sound, that's not good. So the idea also would be with your smart television is to apply clean audio to audio description. And something that nobody likes is to do the audio description with speech synthesis. Okay, so yes, there you are, Joel, laughing. But the thing is that this is good for 2 reasons. One reason is because if you have the text, then you don't need the person to deliver it. Yes, and also you have the text. You can your smartphone would read it for you. To broadcast or to send a text is very cheap and is very fast. Okay, we're talking about broadcasting, while sending a mixture of the two sounds or the audio description is more expensive. Yeah, so that it's not only because of having the person there, but also thinking about the broadcasting, the sending the message in the metadata. That is important. They already in Switzerland, they're already producing audio description on television with speech synthesis. Okay, and it has been very well accepted by the Blind Association in Switzerland. And the reason is because they like the idea of this synthetic voice, which in fact is not bad. It's not what we're used to listening to. And I have got examples here to show you. And it's that the voice who does the audio description is identified not as a member of the cast of the characters in the movie, but it is a completely separate track. Okay, so you identify very quickly, this is an audio description, this is not part of the movie. Okay, and film directors like this idea better, to have an automatic, a synthetic voice, which is not part of their creation, because they are creators, yes, and they didn't create the film with this other person speaking on top of it, yes. So it seems like this way, we are coming into a bit better, and perhaps we are going to go to universal design, which is that we create the track for audio description from production. So it would be the film director, or it would be someone in the production company who writes the first audio description, okay, as they do with subtitles. Yeah,
that's right.
So there are technologies happening. Yet again, unless we make the audio descriptions, the technologies are fantastic, but nobody can use them. So, yeah, that's the...
What do you think about using a synthetic voice instead of a real person?
I would like to hear very much. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't like it, but maybe you can say something, Vivian.
Right now here in Sweden, we have got another project which are dealing with newspapers, and get them accessible. Yes, and very long time from back in the early 80s, I think. They produced most of really many newspaper were produced from the papers, and someone redigerade.
Edited?
Va?
Edited.
Some of the journalists edited a short version of the newspaper and read it on a tape or later on a CD record. But as you mentioned also that it is very expensive to have people doing lots of work. So now we are doing they are producing newspapers. The accessible edition with the synthetic voice, and most of our members are over 60s, and excluding myself, though, which also are over 60s, most of them hate synthetic voice. They think that it sounds very unpersonal, and this voice doesn't pronounce correctly and so on. So I think if you should introduce synthetic voice in other parts, you should meet big protest from our organization, from our members, I think. But if you go 20 years ahead, 1930 or something, 2030 or something, that would be another way, I think. But another thing, when you talk about producing and put it in a cloud, and then you can download things and so on, there is another thing which you meet in every new solutions. That is us as blind persons who should manage with who should use the equipment. I think among young blind people or partially sighted people can use those smartphones and so on, but older blind people in Sweden couldn't even think of buying a smartphone. They want mobile phones with physical buttons, and I think it's a difficulty with every new solution, that you think a lot of the producer and the distributor, but the user. We haven't got in Sweden either. For instance, we haven't got any really good solutions how to make us. Vad säger man? Ja.
Vad vill du säga?
Ja, att göra oss trygga användare eller kunniga användare.
There is no education how to
yes, yeah, there is
operate the smartphones.
Yes.
There is not included in the rehabilitation process.
There is in some places, but it differs a lot.
Sure. And just a few words. I use my smartphone every day and listen to synthetic voice. So for news, it's okay for me. But when you come to movies and more visual stuff with drama in there, the synthetic voice doesn't really get if it's sad or if it's like something exciting going on and so on and so forth. So you want some emotions going on with voice, but not too much. You don't.
Wouldn't agree to that.
No, but just a little bit. You don't want like a static voice, I guess, or so. But just enough. You don't want an actor to go in and do some like dramatic scenes described, but you do want something to sync the emotions going on in the movie, I guess.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that in particular, and Pilar has referenced it basically.
Yeah.
Look, synthetic speech, for all the reasons, the excellent reasons that Pilar mentioned, is coming, and it has many advantages, and is a very good thing. And I've heard, I guess the best synthetic speech I've ever heard is out of IBM in Tokyo. The synthetic speech they've built is virtually indistinguishable from a human voice. It is excellent. And it's become very common software in Apple phones in particular, and in just about any computer. There's an accessible function where the screen is read to you. People who are blind are very used to using JAWS or window eyes screen readers that have very mechanical sounding speech. That's going to change, and it's going to get better and better and better. But where I draw the line and differ a little bit is the concept, I call it consonance. And I think our friend there from Sweden was getting at this point, the idea that the voicing of description is a skill in and of itself. And I insist that the folks who voice description comes out of my company, they're doing it in a studio where they're seeing the video as well as the script, and that in a scene that is happy, the voice must be in consonance with the mood, the happiness of that scene. They're not an actor, they're not part of the scene, they're separate, as Pilar mentioned, and movie creators like that, and they have to maintain that separateness. But at the same time, that fine line, consonance, suggesting, if you have a voice quality that's a monotone throughout a happy scene, it's a monotone throughout a sad scene or a serious scene, that's just as jarring to me as someone that's too much in the scene. And then, you know, the other thing too, you mentioned emotion in that, and that's what I'm getting at too. It's as simple as the famous book, I think it came out of the UK, what is it, eats, shoots, leaves, right?
Oh, yeah.
Eats, shoots, and leaves.
Shoots,
Or the phrase very simple, you know, let's eat grandma. Well, that's disgusting, right? It might be with little kids, an animated cartoon, oh boy, let's eat grandma, you know? Or, you know, it's a more sober scene where everybody's got the table set for Thanksgiving and they're calling grandma in, let's eat, grandma. Is a machine going to be able to make that distinction as far as, sure, it can recognize a comma and make a pause, but is it going to recognize the consonants with a happy scene or a more sober scene? I'm not sure we're ever going to quite replace the humanness of the skill that a human voice talent who's trained with audio description can bring to a soundtrack.
Thank you, everybody. The time is out. So thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. And thank you for popping up the questions. So now we'll break for lunch, and in the afternoon we will be back here at 1 o'clock. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, Joel.
Good night, sleep well.
Good night.
Okay. Thanks.